Welcome, everyone. I don't want to steal the thunder of any of these panelists, so maybe I'll have you introduce yourselves going down. We can start with you. And maybe talk a little bit about, how you sort of got into Web3.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike Darlington. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Monstercat. We're a record label out of Canada, primarily working with electronic music artists. I got introduced to NFTs and Web3 by Justin Blau. Somebody I've known for a very long time in the DJ community. I was just impressed that he was building something what I consider to be really novel at the time, novel community, novel way of reaching fans, novel way of creating value for his biggest supporters, and I was like, I need to learn more about this. So gave him a call. He opened up, introduced me to a couple people, and I also want to give a shout out to Micah Johnson, who's well known for his Aku project, because he was the first artist on the digital art side who took the time to give me a call and explain to me what NFTs were and what it meant for artistry and musicians. So those are my, I guess, the people who I can thank for being here today.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Latasha. I am a singer, songwriter, rapper, and producer, and I'm also head of community at ZORA, NFT protocol. I got introduced to Web3 by my partner, Jamel Reynolds. He is a 2D, 3D animator and filmmaker. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a lie. I was like, no way that I could sell my art and make some money out of it. And then I sold my first piece in February, and it sold in 3 minutes. And then after that, kept selling music videos, and in a summer, I made what a record deal would have given me throughout a summer without selling my masters or doing any of that sort.
I don't know how to follow up from that. I'm Ed Balloon. I am a creative. I have a puppet made out of my likeness through the medium of stop motion. I'm also a musician. I tend to use music in my pieces, as well as voiceover. I hope you guys can hear me. There's a way of holding this mic. I'm not too sure. Anyway, and how I got into the space, very interesting. So I was on Twitter. I had COVID. Long story short, I had COVID, and I was on Twitter because you had to be in isolation and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm on Twitter, and I was following somebody, and I saw a Twitter space with NFTs, and I'm like, man, I want to get into NFTs. So I got into NFTs, and I went down the rabbit hole after that. Started seeing people doing things like Latasha, Black Dave, definitely hitting him in a DM saying, hey, how do you do these things and stuff like that, and found a way for me to my own lane of how to put my pieces out. And yeah, that's how I ended up being in Web3 and, have been finding some success by the grace of God. And yeah, let's keep it going.
Hi, my name's Ollie Chanin. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer from New York. And I got into Web3 through collaborating with some early adapters like Dave Krugman and Xsulo and Jay and Silva. And I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time and try to figure out how I can incorporate NFTs and visual art into my music. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Cool. So, title of this panel is Musicians and a Living Wage. The implication being, of course, that it's hard for many musicians to make a living wage. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the existing system, right? The existing label system. Latasha, you nodded to this, and maybe we could start with you. What new innovations is Web3 promising for someone like you in this space?
Well, I think the beauty of Web3 is the freedom and ownership and the closeness that you have with your audience and your fan now. But the real beauty to me is the ability to say, oh, I own everything that I release and I don't have to give anything, or I could build leverage to the point that a label now has to pay me what I say I'm worth because I've shown it through Web3. I think no beef to anybody who's in the music world and industry right now, but I do believe that the label industry is broken. I think the music industry in itself right now is broken. The contract sessions are broken. Everything in that sense needs to be changed because we're in a different world. We're watching and looking at contracts that were made from the 1920s for some of these artists, and we're not in the 1920s anymore. And so we need to see a new model, and I think Web3 promises that new model and allows artists the freedom to choose how they want to be in this world, how they want to release in this world, and really connect with their audience in that way.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's also an ongoing question. How does the traditional label system continue to exist alongside this new paradigm, right? I don't know if anyone wants to take on that question, sort of a bigger one.
I think I should probably jump in as the label guy up here, the only non-artist.
There's going to be a lot of backlash when it comes to labels, I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to be very honest because it's been very difficult for those who are outside of the space to find the voice. It's always like, hey, this is a label. You don't have any type of power. You don't have a voice. Like, you just have to do X, Y, and Z, and that's that. If it's not working for you, it's not working for you. So when we have found, Web3 and we're finding some success, it's like, hey, it's not even so much about only the sales. It's about being able to have that power of independency, being able to say, hey, I'm going to put this out on my own platform. That opportunity, like being able to make your own platform to put music out, didn't exist in Web 2. Even having that power to believe in that is huge. And so I'm out here very bullish on this space because I did not believe that in Web when I was outside of this space. I didn't have that type of, yo, you can do this. Like, that did not come to me. I didn't have that type of encouragement. And so when I came into Web3 and I saw some successes and, and it was more so like, hey, you can build your own platform. You can do this. You can make this traffic, have that traffic not go to another platform. It can actually come to you and build your own community, like legit have that one-on-one connect. Like as Latasha was saying, I was like, we are doing that. We're building these small communities. And yeah, of course, everyone wants to sometimes be that global artist. We can also have a sustainable living of just having 100 collectors or, 1,000. It doesn't have to be 20 million. Yeah. And that is the beauty. I'm sorry, I'm going too deep. If y'all want to go in.
I'm sorry. I know you bring up some great points there, and to be honest, like labels know that artists don't need labels, and actually it's great for artists that labels know that because it's actually forcing labels to evolve in a way that they can provide more value, new opportunities that maybe they would have been complacent to if it wasn't for the fact that a lot of power is developing for artists. And with Monstercat specifically, we take that to heart. We have to do creative deals. We have to bring new partners to the table that would have never maybe gotten involved before and do it.
No shade. I don't want to throw
any. No. I don't see it as shade. I don't see it as shade at all.
Yeah, I appreciate what y'all doing. I just, I was coming. It definitely hit me deep. So going back to
I agree, and I think it's also like musicians have been conditioned to think that we need other people to be successful. We need a manager, we need a publisher, we need an agent, we need a label. When in reality, all those people kind of get in the way of the creative process and they limit you creatively. Now we're seeing like this mom and pop mentality of let me open my own storefront. Let me connect with the people in my neighborhood and build from there. And I think that is the fundamental kernel of what really needs to change in the music industry.
Oh, I just wanted to add, I think the beauty of this space as well is the fact that artists are literally saying what they're worth. And we weren't allowed to do that for so long within the label structure. And so many times the label structure would tell you who you are, what you're worth to them. I've had labels told me that my sweat equity didn't equate to what they were offering me. And at that point, I'm a slave to them at that point once hearing that. But now with Web3, I could literally be exactly who I want to be, say what I'm worth with everything that I put out there, and people are buying it and believing in it. And we don't have to live off of vanity metrics anymore, like TikTok, like no beef to TikTok and all the things, but I don't got to live on there anymore like I used to. I could actually care about my music again, and that's what I'm really excited for too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think people understand like things we were doing for likes. Like you have to understand, we were just doing things for likes. Those were not going to equate to us paying rent or eating. We were doing things for the sake of having 1,000 likes, to use those likes to hopefully have someone look at us. Meanwhile, it's still the same thing that we're doing in Web3. We always had to try to find a way to build traffic. We always had to then have these managers say, oh, why do I want to manage you? Or why do, like labels say, oh, why do I want to invest in you? Which is what it just so happens that now we're in Web3 and we don't need to have the manager come to us. We can just do it our damn selves. And that's what it is. It hits me really hard because I think sometimes as musicians in this space, we don't get enough of the support that we need and it's very hard. We need that support, y'all. Like, it's been so hard coming into the space, like just being in Web2 as a musician and not, like, it's a struggle. And I'm not saying other artists don't have that, but when you're only doing things for the sake of likes and then hopefully using that to get on a show or something, like, this is how we're living, and it's very hard. Let me be quiet because I know you're trying to keep this going.
No, I mean, you mentioned likes, and Latasha, you mentioned TikTok. It's like there's a way in Web 2 where these big platforms have sort of conditioned us to think about music as something that is valueless, right? Like we stream infinite songs for $10 a month or whatever it is. And there's a way in which Web 3 sort of allows us to revalue what like you say, you put a price on yourself, right? And that can be an independent thing, but can also be involved with labels. The other part of this question is like, who gets to, be a part of the conversation, right? Like, how do we make sure that this stuff remains accessible enough for the artists that aren't getting all the streams on Spotify, right, to find a way to put that price on themselves? It's a broad question. I don't know if anyone wants to take it, but accessibility in Web3 and yeah.
I mean, like, I actually had a conversation the other day in regards to just like, the need of Spotify and how artists need that. And I don't know, it really became something that's like, hey, you're in this space now and it needs to be more accessible. Like you have to be on Spotify and these things. And I think my issue really more so is the fact that people aren't really trying to see the worth of artists to the point of like trying to develop a way that's going to be easy for the consumer, but also, it values the artist well, right? And I think that's possible. It's going to be very difficult, but why aren't we trying to have that conversation versus, hey, I can pay $10 a month to get all this music. Why would I want to buy an NFT at X amount? And I'm like, well, how about we try to find a way that's going to make sense of what, like, why you would buy this NFT. It's not only you buying this NFT, but now you're buying this artist, right? Now I'm having this NFT from this artist is giving you access to shows, it's giving you all these things, and I'm like, but that should be the conversation. Not so much of just saying, hey, you need to be on Spotify, you need this. Like, I need people to really try to care, because we're talking about tech all the time, okay? If we're going to advance tech, let's advance this. Let's try to make sure that we can advance it to make sure that the artists have that value. Like, that's important to me. We want to eat. We also want to create. You guys want to listen to it. Great. So we can all win. I don't understand why we can't all win.
Well, I think the point you brought up there, though, we're having to, as a label or artist, we're having to retrain people of how they value music, how they consume music. So in art, I found I was an early NFT art collector, it clicked really quickly. Like, I went from understanding that there were some very high-priced, fine artists that sell for huge amounts of money, they're collectible, they're scarce, all these things, and then even for myself, I had to like twist my brain to start to think that music is an art form that can be thought of in a similar manner, because I've been accustomed to the free $1 stream for $10 a month every piece of content in the world. And as somebody who lives and breathes music, I can only imagine for the general consumer, the general fan, how hard it is to wrap their head around that concept.
Yeah, it makes me super emotional that music isn't seen as a fine art, especially when I see all the work that goes behind making music for some musicians. I mean, they're getting orchestras to be a part of their pieces. They're like paying out millions of dollars to make certain projects out of pocket sometimes, like paying, like working every job to make a freaking record alone, just so that it sounds how they imagine it. And that is a fine art, and people need to respect that again. And I'm praying that with Web3 we get to do that more. And the other beauty, I think, we were talking about Web3 accessibility. I have an unpopular opinion. I don't think Web3 should be super accessible just yet. I think we got some work to do first before we do that, because we're still dealing with money, and money comes with a lot of trolls and issues that we need to work through as a people before we could like get everybody into this thing. We still are dealing with racism, classism, all the isms within Web3. We're not gonna act like this place is all kumbaya, right? So we gotta remember those acts. And so when I'm teaching about Web3, I'm very one-to-one. I teach a class every other Wednesday called Zoratopia URL, and I pretty much put people on game on how to get into Web3. I get them their wallets. I talk through what ZORA is, other NFT platforms that are accessible to them. I talk through how to mint a music NFT or whatever they want to mint. And that has created a better relationship with the community coming into Web3, because now they feel like they have a family to go to and talk to about these issues or growings within Web3, instead of just getting in it, feeling lost, and just being like, oh my God, I just saw some racist thing on Twitter. What do I do? I got to get out of here, right? But now they're like, no, I have people to talk to. I know what's going on in this space. I know how to grow in here. And I think it's more important to do it like that than to just rush into it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other danger with it too is that like the systems that you're talking about, right, the new Web3 paradigms could end up replicating some of the stuff we don't like, and in some ways already are. How do we make sure that things stay on a good path?
That's tough.
There's no answer to that question, but
I don't know. I mean, I fundamentally think it comes down to being educated about financial issues. You know, like we are not, even just forget music, just people are not educated in finance and how to be responsible with money. And like Latasha said, like with money comes trolling and responsibility and, you know, a whole bunch of bullshit. And, you know, keeping it on the right track, we need to find the players that are keeping it on the right track, and we need to elevate them. And I think, you know, that's really the number one thing. And also for the people who are coming in, like the bigger artists who are coming from labels, who are going to bring maybe 1 million eyes to an NFT project, we need to make sure that what they're saying actually outlines what we want, those of us who are already in here.
Yeah, because I mean, we see it too. Like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm on Twitter Spaces. You already know I'm a hot mess. But we also see, like, you know, sometimes celebrities come in, right, and we have this whole ethos that we're building. We're legit. Everyone on the stage really is a community builder. Yeah, but we also are artists, but we are building. We are out here in the trenches every day. Like, hey, how can we also help other artists? How can we help other people in this space navigate, right? And so we have sometimes people coming out, you know, celebrities, and just doing their drops, right? And then the cash grabs, they're like, hey, we're just going to drop this and then leave. That makes the space look bad, right? So we have to, we have artists that are afraid to come into the space because they're like, hey, this is happening and stuff like that. How do we make sure that this doesn't happen? And so there's ways of, like, as Ollie said, like, we have to set a precedent, and we have to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And by doing that, it's also supporting other artists. Like, why I love Web3 so much as well is because I have never been in a space where it was hard to support another artist. I mean, retweeting an artist back in Web2 was like, nah, you asking for gold. That was like, oh, you what? You want to get an invite to the cookout? Like that was what it was. Like, now a retweet's like, oh, what? I got you. Oh, you want a space open? Oh, you want to talk about your drop? Yeah, we can do that. Like, that is a beautiful thing to have artists being able to support. Like, it's like a family. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to continue want to keep. And so when we have things like that, like, you know, people just coming in for cash grabs because they think it's only money in the space, that messes it up for us. And we can't have that, because we're seeing a lot. We're legit trying to create innovation. We're trying to create something here, and we can't have those things messing it up for us.
Yeah, you mentioned cash grabs. Like, maybe not most, many NFTs are like cringe, right? Like, they're not great. People jump into this space because there's a ton of money here.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. You said that.
No, but I mean, it's an ongoing question of how to deal with that. Have you gotten like backlash as artists for jumping into this space from artists who maybe don't get it, or they see the cringe stuff and they're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, totally.
100%.
But then they see the art that we create, or they follow our Twitters and they see that there's actually some substance behind what we're doing. I think it's back to what you were saying about like setting the trend and setting the rules and being real. I go on Twitter often and I get very real about what this space is doing, and I highlight the issues often. And that doesn't always make people happy, but we gotta say what it is. And as a Black woman, I'm often dealing with the backlash of having to be real in this space. But I know that this space is going to change the world. So we have to say what's real right now.
I agree with that 100%. Shout out to Latasha.
Another thing I want to ask, and I want to save some time too at the end for questions, but I want to ask specifically about music and NFTs and the ways in which music in particular kind of lends itself to this process of kind of revaluing, like as opposed to other digital art, like many NFTs are just purely visual, right? Many are about utility or membership and stuff like that. But music in particular seems to have found its own niche, and I'm wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about that, like how does music in particular fit into the wider world of NFTs?
I find that music, because it's a layer that can be embedded into any other type of NFT content, it's really flexible. There's like almost endless ways that you can work with music. And I think even the definition of what a music NFT is quite fluid. It doesn't just mean it's a song minted on the blockchain. So yeah, I actually forgot what the specific question was, but
just, I mean, you got to it, I think. Like, how do, music NFTs fit into the broader landscape? Because I think it's, what even is a music NFT, right? Like, that's kind of the bigger question.
I'd love to get their definition of what makes it a music NFT a music NFT.
Music's in it.
I think this is also the beauty of it, right? It's not, there's no formula.
Yeah, right.
You got the music in it, all right, bro. Or it's just like, do what you want to do with it. You have so many options. I'm a one-on-one artist, right? Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm still learning the mic. I'm a one-on-one artist, and I had the stop motion puppet, but music is first to me. I'm a musician first, and I was like, hey, how do I do these two things and stuff? So I was doing my one-on-one pieces, and then I was like, yo, I want to do a generative piece where, I include music, but a touch of music and voiceover and acting, all those things. And then I did a drop with that, and it allows you to not be stagnant with how you want to put music out. We have music videos. Latasha kills it with the music videos. Ollie has the way how you, like, with your drops, with your music, like, we all have approached it very differently. And I think I love that. And it's like, hey, you have to do it this way, because that's kind of how it's always been. You have to do it this way. You have to, talk to so and so. You have to do it this way for people to see your music. In this space, you're gonna do whatever vibes with you is gonna be the way that you feel like it's going to work. And that's what I love when it comes to music NFTs. And I think also when it comes to the community aspect, your community is gonna, if they love what you're doing, if they see it, if they see the vision, they're gonna want to be a part of that, and that's also something that's very beautiful as well.
Yeah, I also think taking advantage of what blockchain technology can do for musicians, right? Like, what are the fundamental aspects of the tech that can change the way we create art? And for instance, like, I think a lot of musicians who are coming into this space are struggling because they're like, all we see are these visual NFTs, and like, music is there, right? It's part of it, but is it a music NFT? I think partly it's marketing and branding and how you want to tell your story. Yeah. But also, we are all making it up. We're all inventing these new things. Like, I have 3D renderings that are songs, and like, I can give those to people in a way that I didn't even think was possible before. Ed's doing this incredible puppetry and acting and singing and dancing. Like, he's combining all of his passions. And when we say music NFT, I think we need to look broader. Let's not box ourselves in.
Please stop boxing
music.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I first got into the space, I was like a really early adopter, and no one cared about music NFTs. I'm talking about, like, you could say music NFT and people would be like, what are you even saying to me? And I remember when I released like my first, I released one of the first music videos on NFT, and then I became the first woman rapper on NFT, and people were like, oh, this is a thing now. Okay, that's crazy. But then I just kept releasing all kinds of things. I was releasing performances like of my shows, or releasing like photography, releasing behind the scenes and all types of stuff. And then I went back to music video because I was like, oh, music video is doing a thing now, let's get it. And I remember when I sold my highest paid music video was $50,000 for a music video that was living on YouTube for 2 years. And people were losing it because that happened.
I was there for that. I was there for that room.
And it was like, that changed the game, you know what I mean? I think now knowing that we could do whatever we want, and that's what artists really want to do. Like, we just want to do whatever we want. We never wanted to be like capped, but the industry for so many of us had capped us at our creativity. And look at Ed now. Ed is doing all kinds of extraordinary things with his art, and I'm like losing it every time I see what you're doing. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's because of y'all though. Like we every day, like every time we do a drop, we're legit pushing the space forward. Like, you know, I think curation is going to find its way to come in this space. That's one thing. But, you know, I also just really love the fact that artists are able to say, hey, you know, I'm going to do it this way. Not having someone, like, we all have those voices in our head saying, hey, that's not the way to do it. It's not going to get enough traffic. We're legit doing our own drop rooms. We're like, hey, are you available to be in my drop rooms? Like, that's what we're doing, and I love that. I love the fact that we're messing, these algorithms aren't stopping us from being able to find these people that want to hear our music, and for us to be able to create the way we want to. And blockchain is really working for us. So don't put us in any boxes, because we ain't here for the boxes. We've been boxed our whole lives. We trying to get out those boxes, fam. And this is the space that's allowing us to do that. And I think the communities that we have are seeing that, and they see the visions that we are creating, and I'm here for it, and they are. Sorry for talking so much.
Yeah, I also think like music is the only NFT that has the qualifier music, right? Like when a photographer puts out an NFT, it's not a photographer NFT. Like, it's an NFT.
Photography NFT now.
I guess so, but like I think the point is like it's so it has to be so specific if it's music. It has to be so specific if it's photography, okay? But like a digital artist is just putting out an NFT, right? Like, why don't we get that freedom too?
Yeah.
It's also so annoying because, as Latasha said too, like, you know, coming to the conversation of like bringing music into the conversation is always like, oh, well, yeah, like, why? Like, when I came into the space and I was like talking about music, it was like, I guess, like, you know, like no one wanted to. We're starting to see way more, but that's only because we were like, hey, let's just put this out. Let's put that music video out. If we stopped and, you know, refused to like think about music as having a place in this space, then it wouldn't be where it is now. And so the beauty is that we are seeing it like from 6 months ago to now. The fact that people are like even talking about music, the fact that this is a panel happening about music is a huge thing because it was even hard to get a Twitter space back in the day about music.
Well, I think we still have to recognize though that music is, if not the highest consumed art medium in the world, that it still is so early. Like, I know it's a kind of a meme in NFTs to say we're early, but like music NFTs and the crew up here, it's truly early. It hasn't broken through to the extent that a lot of these other categories have that traditionally are less consumed art forms around the planet. Music is consumed by everybody. So I think a lot of the conversation we're having today is still early and exploratory, and that's why there's so much freedom to try anything. And it actually scares me. I hope that we don't see trends form like we do see in the music industry, where artists feel like they have to go a certain way, break on TikTok. You got to have the right type of music that the algorithm is going to pick up. And I haven't seen that yet in music NFTs, that feeling. So hopefully we can defend that from occurring.
See the artists. You see the big label artists saying, hey, I'm forced to make a TikTok because the labels are telling me to make a TikTok. And I'm like, you know, and so there is that freedom that a lot of artists just want to be able to create. You know, we want to be able to create first. Of course, we want to be able to sustain ourselves. But creating first, that is important to us. And not having that freedom, you know, this space allows us to at least have that freedom. We want to keep that.
We got like 1 minute left. I'd love to, if someone wants to ask a question.
Hey guys, I'm Dan. I'm from MotorDAO. This is kind of like a three-part question for just the entire panel, so anyone feel free to take a stab. At the moment, music NFTs are kind of disjointed. Everyone is releasing NFTs on different chains. People are finding different communities, et cetera, et cetera. Curious about your guys' thoughts about, one, have you found a community that you think you would prefer to stay with in your music career? Do you see a future for multi-chain music, stuff that travels around chains? And do you think there should be a standard? Like, for example, if you mint a song with Sound XYZ, or you mint a song with Mint Songs, or you mint a song with OpenSea, each contract is going to be different. And so, by definition, each music NFT being released on-chain currently, there's no real similarity between any of them. So in your mind, do you think it's worth having some sort of a standard in relation to that problem?
I think you should go on every single platform you can and every single blockchain you can, because you're going to find even more audiences for you through that, right? I don't think you should be on just one platform or one chain. I think it's really important for artists to be cross-chain, honestly, and I think it's really important for you to try different things in every platform. When I first started on ZORA, I only did music video because ZORA was the only platform that allowed for music video. Then on Catalog, I would do my MP3s, and then when Sound came, I started doing Edition MP3s, and then everything just kind of flowed in itself. But I made sure that I was doing something on everything, even OpenSea, and I'm not a huge fan of OpenSea, but even OpenSea, I had photography living on OpenSea, so that like if an audience or a person was on OpenSea and they were like, I want to see what Latasha has, they knew that I had something on the platform for them if they were interested in it. So I think it's really important to do all of it. And as for community, I personally think you should be with a community that speaks to your values and your truths. When I got into this space, I really looked for women and BIPOC peeps because I knew that that's what I needed in my life to like feel like I was safe in the space. But then I found more communities that believed in the same things and allies and things of that nature. So it could be really broad, but just find people who are speaking to your values.
Well, I think I got to end it here. We're out of time. But thank you guys so much. And
All right. Thank you.